So welcome back to this year's video interview series for the Leading Thinker in Business, which is what I like to call it. So I'm Kerri-Ann Hargreaves, and today I'm really excited to welcome Sara Williams, who is the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. I've been desperately waiting for you to join me on this forum, so thank you so much for slotting me into your diary. I've got a really interesting topic that I want to talk to Sara about. So I'm going to hand over to you and you can introduce yourself to the community, and then we'll start chatting and see where we can take this discussion.
Well, thank you very much, Kerri-Ann, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very flattered and pleased to join you. It's
Thank
lovely.
you.
So I'm Sara Williams. I've been Chief Executive of Staffordshire Chambers of Commerce for 9.5 years now, which has gone in a blink of an eye because I feel I am so privileged to have such a brilliant job. I work with a great team and we deliver brilliant services and real support, I hope, to the business community. It's been an interesting year where I think the chambers have come into their own in a way and been able to provide some of that support that businesses have needed. And I hope that the business community are recognising that. I think they are.
I think so.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's great. Yeah. And I think also the partners are as well. We're getting a lot of support from the county council, the city council, and the local enterprise partnership for the work that we're doing. So I think I hope we are delivering a great service to people.
I really believe you are. I think I've seen a huge change in the chamber over the years, and I remember when you first took up your role, because that's when I had my little boy.
Oh, right, okay.
And that's when I stepped away from the chamber, and I was devastated because I thought, I really like this lady and I know I could actually learn so much, but also add value in that community. But I just had my little boy, so then I came away from getting involved day to day. So yeah, it's kind of reminded me how old George is.
It's good to have you back on board as well, Kerri-Ann, as well. It's nice that you're engaged again.
Do you know what? It's a great community to be in, a great community to be in, and I've really enjoyed seeing the communications that you've put out there over the last 12 months. Especially how it's adapted during COVID, and you've been there championing for business, haven't you? And you've been supporting business, but also giving that advice and being a community, which sadly I think we lost because we couldn't see each other.
Yeah,
it has been taken online.
It has been hard to adapt to being online, and I think businesses have done amazingly well to do that. It has been a change, and I think sort of going on, to equality and diversity, one of the things that we have noticed is that we are getting a more varied audience online. So it's really good. We're getting many more women. We're getting people from different backgrounds, different communities coming forward, taking part in our online activity. So I'm really hoping that when we do go back to having face-to-face as well, we'll be able to bring everybody with us back into a face-to-face world as well as a digital online world.
I think that's how a lot of businesses have had to adapt this year. Those that ordinarily were always face-to-face, they've had to create that online space because one, we couldn't meet, but two, they've recognised that there's a different audience.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you've done so well. I ordinarily don't always head out to meetings because I'm constantly on video or telephone, so I can't always get that time out. So then being able to go online, it's definitely been easier, but there's nothing quite like a handshake. I miss handshakes, and there's nothing quite like going and having breakfast and a coffee together and just sitting down and having a chat human to human. So I do miss that element massively. So it'll be great when I can come back into your lounge. It's so pretty. I enjoy being there. So fingers crossed we get there at some point this year. I'm
sure we will. I
feel positive.
I look forward to a face-to-face cup of coffee with you there as well.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Your coffee is good actually in that building. It's a good strong cup of coffee.
Well, one of our local businesses, so yes.
But yes, you very briefly touched on it there. So the reason why I wanted to bring you on today, and for everyone listening, is that you're a huge advocate of diversity, inclusivity, and equality within business, and I feel passionate about that too. So I want to try and explore that subject with you, if that's okay. And I think the biggest thing for me is that businesses are still learning on this concept. Sadly, it still feels new to so many people. It shouldn't be. It should be something that's embedded within our attitudes and our beliefs and the way we behave. But how could businesses improve the diversity in the workplace?
Well, I think part of it is recognizing that diversity actually adds enormous value, and it's not a difficult to do, it's a necessary to do.
Yes.
because, you know, I think it's been proven that businesses who've got a more diverse workforce have something like 35% chance of being more financially better off than other businesses. So, you know, there is a real return on investment that businesses could look at. But more than that, if you have a diverse workforce, you're going to have more innovation, better solutions to questions and ideas, access to different markets. It just makes business sense. And I don't understand why businesses are still struggling with some of this. So I think the first step is really to understand and make people more aware of the opportunities and what this can really do to their business. Then the second thing is, I think, using people like you who can then help really reach out into different markets, different audiences, to get the right talent, and for that understanding about how, and I think, you know, COVID has helped us in the fact that we can actually see people differently, but get that more into businesses.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I think that needs to be a huge silver lining of COVID, is that I think there's an element sometimes of people being treated differently too much, you know. There's got to be a balance. We should all, to a degree, be treated the same and given the same opportunity, no matter our background, our race, our sex, our gender, everything, you know. But COVID is definitely, like, the use of technology, I think, has transformed the way that people talk and come together, and that's been a huge silver lining of it, and should hopefully improve the diversity in business, you know. Just even down to hiring, you're right there, from a talent perspective, we've hired individuals that are on a UK-wide basis for a business ordinarily that might have only ever wanted a local person that works for them, and they could have been missing that talent that might be based in a different part of the UK. I think that's fantastic. You know, it's really an opportunity, isn't it, for business to strengthen their network?
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely right. And I think it is about making sure, you know, equality and diversity for me and inclusion is all about making sure that people have the right opportunities to deliver their potential, because otherwise it is a waste for us as an economy. It's a waste for us as businesses. It just makes wide economic sense. And we've found that within the Chamber, we've got a programme called Positive Pathways, which is working with the refugee community in Stoke-on-Trent to encourage them to start their own business, because a lot of them have got amazing qualifications, amazing experiences, you know.
I remember coming to the conversation, to the meeting just before lockdown happened, and I can't remember the lady's name now, and she spoke, and she'd set up a business here, and she was fantastic, and she had so much energy. She was so vibrant. She lit up the room with her story, and it wasn't an easy story to listen to by any means, but what she'd achieved from being supported by that programme was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done. In fact, we've just won an award for it, so which is really great.
Of course it is.
But more than that, it is that there is this talent in the city and in the area that we need to harness for us to really grow as an area. And that's not to say we're not going to support every business, but it's just making sure that we as a chamber are inclusive in the support that we offer everybody.
Absolutely. And I think there's some incredible businesses that are based in Staffordshire that are at the forefront of technology, modern medicine. They're making such a big impact to the world and our UK economy at the moment. This, you know, we've got leading science, we've got leading education. There's so much to be here locally. I know we're talking about it on a local basis here, but, you know, from a national perspective, this needs to be a subject that's on everybody's agenda, doesn't it?
And I mean, I think that's one of the things that as a chamber is our responsibility, is we try and get that message out across the chamber network, but also, you know, as wide as we possibly can. We're really keen to tell those stories about those great businesses, because it shows Staffordshire as a place that is the best place, I think, to, you know, to live and work and have tremendous opportunities. Absolutely.
I love to be a part of the fact that I'm always supporting the local business community. I think long term, yes, we'll probably support the UK, but really being a part of the local business community, helping local people, helping local businesses to grow and thrive, it feels fantastic. It's lovely to share stories, but then when you do see businesses that are focusing on this element, on improving diversity, improving inclusivity, and equality, even just to the number of females in leadership roles. You know, we have an incredible number of females in leadership roles in the local community, don't we?
We do.
But we need more, you know, more with a voice as well, I would say. You know, I think we have to take ownership and responsibility, don't we, on this topic, to have a voice and your voice be heard. And I think you can fall into a trap of not saying something about a situation when you've seen it happen and just accepting it. Whereas actually, if we voice it, if we share it, if we come up with an action plan, we can change it, can't we?
Yeah, and I think also the thing that I've noticed over the last year is that the role of women in businesses has changed. So there's often been women who are HR directors or finance directors, but they haven't, as you say, they haven't had a voice. They've not been seen as the business leader. But because of this change that has happened, where people are taking on more wider responsibility, I think there's been a bit of a change in leadership approach, where it's much more it's spread. There is a different structure that is developing around a lot of businesses, because the challenges that we have had to face have been so enormous that people have started to think about the talent that they already have and use it differently. So now we need to give more of those women who are now stepping up within their organizations, we need to give them more of a voice and make sure that they are heard and that their experiences are understood and heard as well.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's finding the ways of championing that, isn't it? And actually giving them that voice and then giving them a platform, you know. And LinkedIn is a great place for that, because you can talk to your whole community. But then working with, having a partnership with, say, the Chamber, that's a great way of having a voice, isn't it? Because of the communities that you've developed over the years. Huge communities, big and small organisations.
Yes, and it is getting that mixture as well. There's the whole stuff about role models. There's the whole stuff about how you learn from each other, about how you talk to each other about the issues that have been faced. We have a Women, Wealth and Wellbeing network, which we launched just before COVID, which wasn't the best time. So we'll be launching it this year. And the idea really is that it's just a chance for women to talk to each other. And that's not being exclusive. It's not saying that women and men shouldn't mix, that there isn't a way of doing this together. But one of the things that I know from my own experience as a woman in business, and I've had my own business in the past as well. So I've not always been in chambers. But I know that there is a point about where you need, there is confidence, and women have a different approach to confidence than men. And part of what we're trying to do through this network is to give women more confidence that they can be more assertive, that they can actually have more of that voice, that they don't feel so limited, as I think some women sometimes feel. And they can play their full part in the widest possible business community. And
I like that. It's about playing a full part, and if we can all be more open to playing that role, because it can be quite a scary thing, when you walk into a business community or a business meeting and it is perhaps full of a different gender. But I think it's about individuals having the confidence that they own that space in that room. And
it takes a lot to learn it. It does take a lot to learn it. I mean, I don't, you can't see from here, but I'm actually not very tall. I wear very high heels usually. I'm very tall. And one of the reasons why I wear very colourful clothes, which you commented on in is so that I've always stood out in the, and that's my brand that I have taken on, because I want to be, because one of the things I found being not very tall is if you're talking to quite tall men is that they look down on you.
They look down.
and I'm looking up all the time. So how you assert yourself in different ways. And that's one of the things that I chose to do for my brand, if you like.
I agree. Personal brand is incredibly important, none more so than I think the last 12 months, if I'm honest, where we've all been able to put ourselves out there in a way that ordinarily might not have been accepted.
Yes.
Which I hugely value of taking away from COVID, and I think if we start to think about, like, say, a post-COVID world, because I'm really interested in that now, because I think, yes, we're in another lockdown, but we do have 2 vaccinations in production. Our communities are being vaccinated. We have to be positive, don't we, Sarah?
We do. We absolutely
We've got to look forward, and I think we now need to start thinking about the changes that businesses need to make for a post-COVID world. Do you think businesses have already started to kind of adapt their approach now, thinking about this topic of diversity, inclusivity and equality? Is there anything they need to take away, you think, from, say, what you've seen happen in the business community?
I think businesses are changing. I think that one of the things that I would say I have noticed, and I am trying to champion through some sort of partnership work that I'm doing, is that what we have always talked about is how we value jobs. Some of the jobs that we now see as being the most valuable are the ones which in the past we considered to be low paid.
Right.
So
Okay.
care workers, people working in the health sector, delivery drivers, all of those people who we have relied on to keep us going and to keep us safe. We now need to understand that that value and pay are different, or they need to be more aligned. And there is a whole bit about how we need to understand how you value the work that you do. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, makes absolute sense.
And I think that's one of the things that we need to learn, is how you then value people that you might not be able to pay much more to as a business, but how you then recognise their contribution, how you talk to them, how you involve them, how you look after them are becoming more and more important. And I think one of the most significant changes that I have seen is this rise in well-being and the businesses' concern about people's mental health, about their families, about how they're doing homeschooling, all of those sorts of issues. They're now business issues.
Yes, and I think they always should have been a business issue, shouldn't they? But sadly, you often don't take yourself out of the business to also look at the bigger picture. We should always have been aware of it. But, you know, I remember the viral newsreader that went when he was being interviewed, and his child came in behind him. You know, that was real life in the first lockdown.
And now nobody would bat an eyelid about that, would they? I mean, now that's sort of standard. You know?
Exactly. I was chatting to a candidate yesterday and I could hear a child in the background. I said, look, go and attend to her, come back to me, because I've got a child myself. And whilst he understands, because he's older, her 2-year-old doesn't. No. They just need mummy at that moment in time, or they need daddy. You know, I do appreciate it. And I think business in general appreciates,
I agree,
the situations we have all found ourselves, no matter what your background is, your skill set, your level within the business community. We've all needed to be treated differently, but then the same in some elements in terms of the opportunity that we're given. And I think I'm hoping that that's a massive silver lining that's come out of this period of time.
I hope so too. And I think it should be. I really think it should be. And I think, you know, your people are also, I mean, you know this better than me, but the Chamber's recruiting at the moment for a few roles, and we're finding that the talent out there is amazing, but also what those people want is different than it used to be. It's not so much about pay, although salary is obviously always important. It's about the values of the business. It's about the way that we will support them through agile working, through family support, through mental health issues. Absolutely. They are much more interested in that package of stuff and our approach to that than I've ever known before.
I think one of the biggest questions now that we're challenged on when we are talking to an individual in their job search is, how did they treat their staff during lockdown, during the first lockdown, during COVID, during the last 10 months, because obviously we're still here now. How are they treating people today? Because some businesses are treating the situation differently now, and businesses obviously realigned, haven't they? They've learned so much from the first lockdown that I think the business community is in a stronger place with their businesses, obviously. So, you know, and I think if we can carry on in that thread, I think we'll come out of this in a much stronger position from the value that we give to our staff and our people, but also what they give back.
Yes,
and they want to give back. You know, I just hope that businesses don't all revert to being back in offices locked away and not actually, you know.
No, and I think what we will end up with is a sort of hybrid model. I mean, the Chamber offices have been semi-open, and we in fact we opened the members lounge in August last year because we were getting a lot of requests from members who actually needed the space to get away from their family and get into somewhere that was a more sort of work environment. But I don't think people will do that all the time. I think it will now be that you'll do some of that, and sometimes you'll be in the office, but most of the time you'll be at home. And we've definitely decided that what we're trying to do is that you come into the office to plan, to talk to your colleagues, to have a social life, to have a bit of a chatter, to do the water cooler moment, to have that inspiration, and then you go home to do the work.
Yes.
And Alan Rogers, who's the chair of the Local Enterprise Partnership and chief executive of RISUL, said that your work is something that you do, not a place that you go. And I think that is really a really good way of thinking about it.
I absolutely love that.
Balance it.
Yes, and I think that's how we should see it. I know that needs to be a balance, because some businesses, their teams do function better when they're together. I appreciate that, because I know that my team functions better when we're together. We definitely have a collaborative role. It's not standalone. But I think I love that term, the water cooler moment, because we speak to candidates on a daily basis, and the ones that have been working from home since last March are really struggling. I think they saw the new year before the 4th of January. I think they saw the new year as a sign where they could get back into the office. Where a degree of normality was coming and they could be back with their teams. And then obviously, sadly, the announcement came, and we've seen a huge amount of negativity from our candidate base. They're sad, they're feeling it. And at the moment, I think businesses need to step back up and really include them again, and really consider what they did in the last lockdown, where they perhaps had WhatsApp groups going, where they were chatting to people more. Or one of my clients actually has 3 o'clock every day. Someone different in the business will host a coffee and catch up meeting.
I like that. That's really nice.
And I think that's fantastic. You don't have to go, but if you need to go and you just want to talk about what you're going to eat that night or what you've enjoyed watching on television, it's a time to come together and have that water cooler moment you were talking about.
Yeah, no, I really like that. Yeah, I mean, I did an all-staff meeting this morning. I was very conscious that I was quite negative, because obviously I have to say, the offices are closed. Apart from, we have key workers because of all of the work that we do around export documentation and business support. So we do have some key workers going in, but basically to say to people, stay at home, please. But also recognizing that when we did open the offices on the 4th of January, everyone was so upbeat, everyone was excited. And as you say, it's been a very deflating couple of days.
It has, hasn't it? Yeah, and I think that's why we need to share the positive stories and the good news if we can, because it's a little bit of that I think helps to bring back a little bit of life back to what we've got. It's going to be challenging over the next few months and few weeks, of course it is, but I think there's a lot to look forward to. I think
there's a lot to look forward to, and I think that the Staffordshire businesses will step up, because I think that one thing we're good at is adapting, changing, and growing. And I've just been blown away by some of the businesses that we've seen, about how they've changed, how they've learned new stuff, how they've just developed as businesses, and what we really need to do is just do more of that. Really.
And I think I've been looking at that massively this week as well, because I've got a child in education, and we've seen how, yes, the business community has massively adapted, and it's a huge positive. So have individuals. Some candidates have never used a video interview process. There's been a lot of education, a lot of learning, which is great. But then from our schools, last year they were very much a childcare provision. That the education was put at the back, and it was more about supporting the key workers. This year they have stepped up immensely. George is in a classroom now, and he is, his teacher's teaching, and they're all on video, and the children are all chatting on this video. It's online learning. It's fantastic. It's massively sped up the process for how our children are being taught. But also it's a huge learning curve for him. He's only 9. He's never needed to do a video chat unless it's on FaceTime. It's very different using modern technology, isn't it? And so I think there's been a huge advancement of technology and modern ways of thinking for every element.
And I think that's really interesting, because I was talking to a business, and they'd furloughed a couple of members of their staff, and then they brought them back. And of course, in that time, the whole of the rest of the organisation had been using Zoom and Teams, and these 2 people had no idea what anyone was talking about. There was a completely different language about how you meet people,
of course.
And so they had to do this incredible learning, relearning about how to work. When everyone else has just done it in a more sort of collaborative way, or group way, really.
Yeah, of course, because they've done it together, haven't they? And I remember sitting there looking at Zoom back in April thinking, okay, I'm going to have to do a YouTube tutorial. And then Microsoft Teams came out, and one of my clients wanted to meet me on Microsoft Teams, and I was like, can we do Zoom? I had to learn again. It was fantastic, and I think it's great that we've had to change our ways and think of other ways of coming together. I think it's brilliant, and I just hope it carries on. I really do.
I'm sure it will.
We can't take a step back, can we? We can't stop. This is it now. This is the future, and we've got to really embrace it, haven't we? And thankfully, I'm seeing a lot of that in the local business community. So I'm just going to keep championing it and hoping it carries on.
Absolutely, yes.
But I think that's
just on that, just very briefly, if I can just do another chamber plug, is we have 2 digital advisors. So if businesses are struggling about what they need to do or the issues that they're facing, we've got 2 advisors. It's completely free. And the idea really is it's because I found this, is what questions do you need to ask your IT advisor so you don't sound stupid, and that you need to get the best result. And so we now have 2 advisors who can go into businesses and talk to them about what their digital strategy needs to be, not do the work for them, but give them the confidence and the knowledge to be able to go and find the right supplier in the local business community to deliver that for them. So I think that hopefully will add value to as well.
I think so, because I had to learn so much back last year, and I probably did need a bit of that myself, you know, because it's all alien to us, isn't it? So if you've got someone that is digitally capable of providing you with that consultation, I think that's a great service. So no, I'm glad you mentioned it. And we're always happy with a plug.
Good, thank you.
That's okay, of course. I think that's it. Unless you've got anything else to add, I think that's a great place to end.
No, I think that's fine. I think we've covered everything. I think really,
I think we have. It has. It's been a great conversation. I'm so glad that we finally got to do this.